I made this commitment for a reason and for a purpose. And so I'm sticking to it. And so every time that I don't want to record, I have to verbally tell myself and you that I didn't want to record. I keep forgetting to record. And so my life is busy. I'm in a busy season, and recording is just not something I think about. So, not a top priority right now. I got a house full and finishing up school, and it's a lot of stuff going on right now in my life. But I made this commitment for a reason and for a purpose. And so I'm sticking to it. And so every time that I don't want to record, I have to verbally tell myself and you that I didn't want to record. Because it's just a lot. But I'm challenging and pushing myself to embrace all of me. And it's a struggle, if I'm being honest. I'm finna enjoy this view for a few more minutes, and then I gotta head back home to edit the video. Yeah, I came out here so I could relax my mind, you know. But I'm doing this every time and it's something you can even practice and pick up for your own life because it works. Every time I try to get out of why I'm doing anything, I always have a really good reason. I mean, and they be legitimate, but I can also push past them. And so I always stop at that point where it's just a good reason, and I'm just like, sweet, I'm off the hook. But yeah, God been holding my feet to the fire in a lot of ways, and so I have to tell on myself, basically. Yeah, this is me telling on myself. All right, we're gonna get into the video. Yeah, so again, I'm struggling with being consistent, but this is something for me, and I pray that you're blessed by it. I know the Lord told me to share, and so I'm trying to stay committed to that and truly keep it kingdom by submitting to what He is saying, obeying Him, and not live in a way that I'm not only dishonoring Him, but I'm not living a life that's conducive to my convictions and what He's taught me. And it's not always easy because, you know, like I said in the video in that car, it's easy to give yourself an out when your excuses are valid. But when you know, regardless of if anybody else knows or not, that you're not doing your best or you're not being fully obedient, and you respond accordingly, God honors that. And so that's the space I'm in right now, where I can't listen to what God, you know, showed me long ago, compliments and criticism. To be particularly aware of the compliments, because compliments can be a bigger pitfall than criticism, because now you start to believe that you're further along than you are, because people from the outside looking in are telling you you're okay. You know, this is a good standard. This is a good place. You're doing your thing. You know how it goes. But if God is telling you something totally different, or saying I require more, or I need you to rest more, and you still trying to go and do and be all these things because somebody gave you a compliment, and not just anybody. I was just talking to my son. It don't be just any random person. It's the person that you admire, the person that you wanted the okay from. And those are the biggest struggles and the biggest challenges to keep you alert and aware that you're aligned with God. And so, yes, I'm staying I'm going to. It's a practice, stay aligned with God, because I know that I could easily say, oh, I didn't record this week and I'm good and I'm not going to. I could fall back and nobody would notice. I mean, I get 10 views. I think I got 40 something is my high. So it's easy. I could duck out, no problem. However, if I got one view and it's just me, I got to stay true to what I know the purpose of me doing this is for. And so that's what God wants our heart to be. The purpose is not for the approval of man, the showboats, none of that. Is to stay aligned to him, because he knows what we're going through and why we're going through it. And so when we ignore that, it causes a lot more long-term effects of lack of training, lack of discipline, lack of obedience, and that's not where he wants us. He wants us fully. He wants us fully. So yeah, my daughter walked in, and so I had to cut because we working on her listening skills, her obedience. But yeah, so we have to make sure that we're aligned with God, regardless of what it looked like to anybody else. I mean, somebody else could say, oh, you're doing great, you're doing it. We have to stay aligned with God and be secure in that. Be okay with whatever he's telling us to do. It may not look right to nobody else. That's okay. I got to stay true to what God is telling me to do and be. And that's not always easy. Real talk. It's not. Because most of us, if we can find a way out of it and nobody knows and we can save face, we're going to do that. But again, God looks at our hearts. He knows what's going on. I was just telling my son, he can handle all of it. You know, there's no word, behavior, thought that he is not already privy to. And so trying to pretend I don't feel the way I feel or think the way I think is just a disservice to me. Now I'm just training myself to lie to myself. And when we get honest, God start making moves, start transforming, start renewing. But as long as we're pretending and being fake, and I've said this a few weeks ago, you know, I've said this in the first couple of videos. Honesty, that's part of the personal development. Honesty is the very first one. And so if we don't get honest with ourselves and honest with what's really going on with us, what we're saying is we can't trust God to handle it, or we can't trust God to change it. And I know for me personally, I had thought I trusted God to handle something, and I still tried to hold on to it. And so then when the expectation was, oh, well, I can hold on just a little bit because you know my heart, things didn't transform the way I thought it would. God had to show me, like, you got to yield. Yield means yield. That don't mean hold on to something and try to keep a little bit. No, yield means complete surrender. We can get away with a lot of stuff and nobody would know. But God knows. We have to be mindful of that and really know that's the God we serve. He sees it all. Nobody's getting away with anything. We all going to have to stand before him one day. And when I stand before him, I want to hear good and well done, servant. Because at the end of the day, that truly is our final judge. That truly is the one who loved us the way he did. That's truly the only one that sacrificed for us when we don't and still don't deserve it. But his love is surpassing and his grace is abounding. And I don't want to take advantage of that. I don't want to be that type of woman. I don't want to take advantage of God. I don't want to feel entitled, like God owes me something. I struggle with that, dealing with childhood trauma. It's a lot of things where I want to make sure that I'm mature in him and I'm growing up in him. And I can't just talk the talk. My life has to line up with what I'm saying I believe. And if I really know Christ, I trust him with those things. And then I can believe everything about him. I can believe everything he said. I can believe everything the prophet said about him. I can believe everything that's to come. I can believe God because I've gotten to know him and I trust him. And so now I can believe and receive all that he is. Those that receive him are now called children of God. Like, that's a privilege. That's a right that you have as his. And we have to live our lives in that way. And remembering that we have the right to, to receive it all. And we get to live that life, to be emotionally sound, to be mentally sound, to be physically strong. Like, these are the rights that we have as children of God. And that's not even an exhaustive list. That is literally just a snapshot. I'm on the struggle bus with this thing here because I could dip out at any time and no one would be the wiser. But yet I know what God told me to do. I know that all things work out for our good. The struggle is real because I would just rather not, to be honest. Again, it's not about doing what I feel is best. It's about being obedient to the Most High God. Yeah. And that's where I'm at. Trying not to escape because I can, but really be who God says I am and who he wants me to be. Because again, it's all for his greater purpose and for his glory. Yeah, so I'm just trying to figure out a day that's actually going to work. So until then, I'll just let everybody know through social media, through Instagram and Facebook, and, just go from there. So I committed to a year and we shall see. It's only week 5, I think, or 6. And I'm adjusting and not bailing out. And, yeah, we'll see how this goes. But right now I'm finna go take a nap and get some rest because I'm tired and sleepy, and that's where we are. All right.